Let me say this like we're sitting side by side, not like a lecture, just a real conversation. You ever notice how one small comment from the wrong person can ruin your entire mood? Your day was fine, your mind was clear, and then boom, someone says something, does something, or disrespects you just enough that it sticks. And suddenly, they're living in your head rent-free. Here's the controversial truth most men never hear growing up. Anger isn't caused by people. It's caused by permission. And before that sounds insulting, stay with me. Because this isn't about being passive, weak, or letting people walk over you. It's about understanding why some men stay calm no matter what's happening around them, while others are constantly irritated, reactive, and drained. Most men are taught that anger means strength. That being bothered means you care. That reacting proves you're not a pushover. But in reality, anger often signals the opposite, a loss of control. Think about it. Every time someone gets under your skin, they've just hijacked your emotional state. They didn't earn that power. You handed it to them. And here's the uncomfortable part. The more easy you get angry, the easier you are to manipulate. This video isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about mastering it. Because the goal isn't to feel nothing. It's to stop letting external behavior dictate your internal state. Men who never seem bothered aren't numb. They're selective. They understand something most men don't. Emotional reactions are habits, not inevitabilities. If you've ever said, "That just pissed me off," or "People shouldn't act like that," or "I can't stand when someone does this," then this conversation is for you. Because once you understand why anger shows up, how it's triggered, and what keeps it alive, you stop fighting it. And when you stop fighting it, it loses its grip. Let's break this down calmly, clearly, and practically. Start with why anger feels automatic when it's actually learned. Let me start this in a way that might challenge you, because growth usually does. Most men believe anger just happens. Someone disrespects you, crosses a line, or does something stupid, and the reaction feels automatic, instant, unavoidable. But here's the controversial truth. Anger is not automatic. It's a learned response. That doesn't mean you consciously choose it in the moment. It means your mind has been trained, over years, to interpret certain situations as threats to your ego, status, or control. And once that interpretation happens, anger follows like clockwork. The key word here is interpretation. Two men can experience the exact same situation. One gets irritated and carries it for hours. The other barely reacts and moves on. The situation didn't decide the outcome. The meaning assigned to it did. Most men were never taught to question that meaning. Instead, anger was normalized, even encouraged. It was framed as standing up for yourself, asserting dominance, or refusing to be disrespected. But what often goes unnoticed is how exhausting that constant vigilance becomes. Always on guard, always scanning for offense, always reacting. Here's the part that's hard to hear. If someone can make you angry on demand, they control you emotionally. That control might last 5 minutes or 5 hours, but it's still control. And strong men don't give away control cheaply. Anger feels powerful in the moment because it creates intensity. But intensity isn't the same as strength. Strength is staying centered when someone else is off balance. Strength is choosing your response instead of being dragged into one. Most anger comes from unmet expectations. You expect people to be respectful, rational, fair, predictable. And when they're not, the gap between expectation and reality creates frustration. But here's the shift men need to make. People don't exist to meet your expectations. They act based on their own limits, habits, and awareness. Once you accept that, anger loses a lot of fuel. This doesn't mean tolerating bad behavior. It means responding deliberately instead of emotionally. Calm responses carry more authority than emotional ones ever will. Men who rarely get angry aren't suppressing anything. They've simply trained themselves to pause between stimulus and response. That pause is where choice lives, and choice is power. Instead of asking, "Why did this make me angry?" they ask, "Why am I letting this matter?" That question alone changes everything. Anger thrives on immediacy. The faster you react, the stronger it feels. But when you slow your response, even slightly, you interrupt the pattern. And once the pattern is interrupted, it weakens. This section isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming intentional. When anger becomes a choice instead of a reflex, you stop being predictable. And when you stop being predictable, you stop being easily disturbed. In the next section, we'll talk about the real reason certain people get under your skin and why it's rarely about them. Let's get straight to the point, because this is where most men misunderstand what's actually happening. When someone annoys you, disrespects you, or bothers you, it feels like their problem, their tone, their attitude, their behavior, and on the surface, that makes sense. But here's the controversial truth. People don't get under your skin by what they do. They get under your skin by what they trigger. If something truly had no meaning to you, it wouldn't bother you at all. The reaction only happens when a situation touches something internal: pride, insecurity, expectation, or a need for validation. This is an insult. It's insight. Most irritation comes from resistance. You want reality to be different than it is. You want people to behave better, think faster, respect you more, or act the way you would. And when they don't, your mind pushes back. That pushback is anger. Men often believe that being unbothered means being passive or weak. But in truth, being easily bothered means you're emotionally dependent on how others behave. And emotional dependence is the opposite of strength. Here's a hard question every man should ask himself. Why does this person's behavior matter so much to me? Because the answer is rarely because it's wrong. It's usually because it challenges how I see myself. Disrespect only stings if respect matters deeply to your identity. Criticism only hurts if approval still holds power. Annoyance grows when you expect control where you don't actually have it. Once you see that, something shifts. Instead of trying to correct everyone else, you start correcting your internal reactions. You realize that other people's behavior is information, not a command for you to react. Most men give strangers, co-workers, and even casual acquaintances far too much influence over their emotional state. One comment, one look, one inconvenience, and your mood changes. That's not awareness. That's reactivity. Calm men don't assume offense. They observe first. They decide second. This doesn't mean you ignore boundaries. It means you enforce them without emotional charge. You don't need anger to be firm. You don't need irritation to be assertive. In fact, the calmer you are, the more weight your words carry. When someone gets under your skin, it's an invitation to look inward, not to explode outward. It's showing you where your expectations, attachments, or ego are still exposed. And here's the quiet truth. Once you stop expecting people to meet your internal standards, their behavior stops surprising you. And when nothing surprises you, very little angers you. In the next section, we'll talk about what changes when you stop taking things personally and why that shift feels uncomfortable at first, but freeing in the long run. There's a strange moment that happens when you stop taking things personally, and most men aren't prepared for it. At first, it feels like something is missing. The emotional charge that used to rise so quickly just doesn't show up the same way. Situations that once irritated you now pass through without sticking, and that absence can feel unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable, because you've been used to reacting. For many men, reactions have become part of identity. Being sharp, being tough, being easily provoked. Somewhere along the way, those reactions started to feel like proof of awareness or strength. But when you stop taking things personally, you realize how much energy was being wasted on internal battles that never needed to happen. You begin to notice how often your mood was tied to other people's behavior, how easily frustration dictated your focus, how much mental space was taken up by replaying conversations, imagining responses, or holding on to irritation long after the moment passed. Letting go of that isn't weakness, it's relief. When things stop feeling personal, your mind becomes quieter, not empty, clear. You're still aware of what's happening around you, but you're no longer emotionally dragged by it. You start responding instead of reacting. And this is where many men struggle, because not taking things personally feels like giving up control, when in reality it's reclaiming it. You're no longer handing your emotional state to circumstances you can't control. You're choosing where your attention goes. There's also a shift in self-respect. When you stop internalizing other people's behavior, you stop measuring yourself against it. You don't need constant validation. You don't need to correct every misunderstanding. You don't need to prove anything in the moment. That creates stability. Calm becomes your default instead of something you chase after damage is done. And when calm becomes your baseline, anger feels unnecessary rather than tempting. This doesn't mean nothing affects you. It means fewer things own you. You still notice disrespect. You still recognize when something isn't acceptable. But instead of internal turmoil, there's clarity. And clarity leads to clean decisions, whether that's addressing something directly or simply disengaging. The biggest change is this. You stop seeing other people's actions as reflections of your worth. Once that connection is broken, anger loses its grip, because anger feeds on personalization. Without it, there's nothing left to sustain the reaction. In the next section, we'll talk directly to men about where they unknowingly give their emotional power away and how to take it back without becoming cold or detached. This is where the conversation needs to get honest without getting harsh. Most men don't lose emotional control because they're weak. They lose it because they were never taught where their power actually comes from. And the hard truth is this. Men give their power away emotionally far more often than they realize. Every time you react instead of respond, power shifts outward. Every time your mood depends on someone else's behavior, power shifts outward. Every time irritation controls your attention, power shifts outward. And many men mistake that for being real or authentic. Here's the criticism, calmly stated. Men often confuse emotional reaction with self-respect. They believe that not reacting means letting things slide, being passive, or appearing soft. But real self-respect doesn't need emotional noise to assert itself. It's quiet, firm, controlled. When you get angry easily, you're not defending your boundaries. You're exposing them. You're showing exactly where you can be pushed. And people, consciously or not, notice that. The advice men need to hear is simple, but not easy. Stop trying to control how people behave. Start controlling how you engage. You don't need to correct everyone. You don't need to react to everything. And you definitely don't need to carry emotional residue from situations that don't serve you. Power isn't dominance. Power is detachment without indifference. That means you can care about standards without being emotionally shaken when they aren't met. You can address issues calmly. You can walk away without bitterness. You can hold boundaries without raising your voice internally or externally. Another hard truth. If someone's behavior consistently angers you, it's often because you're staying in situations you should be reevaluating. Anger is sometimes a signal, not that someone else needs to change, but that you need to. Your environment, your expectations, your engagement level. Men who wake up to this stop wasting emotional energy on things they can't control. They become selective, not withdrawn but intentional. This is where maturity shows up. You stop reacting to feel powerful. You start choosing responses that are powerful. In the final section, we'll talk about the mental shift that makes other people's behavior almost irrelevant, and how to maintain calm without becoming disconnected from life. There's one shift that changes everything, and once it happens, it's hard to unsee. It's the moment you realize that other people's behavior is information, not instruction. Most men live as if every action around them demands a response. A comment needs a comeback. Disrespect needs anger. Annoyance needs irritation. But when you step back mentally, you see how unnecessary most of that is. The shift is simple in theory, difficult in practice. You stop reacting to what people do and start observing why it matters to you. Once that happens, emotional distance appears. Not coldness, but clarity. You're no longer emotionally entangled in situations that don't affect your values, direction, or peace of mind. This is how calm becomes sustainable. You stop scanning your environment for threats to your ego. You stop assuming intent where there is none. You stop needing to win every emotional exchange. And when those habits fade, irritation has nowhere to attach itself. Men who master this shift don't feel superior. They feel lighter. They understand that most behavior has nothing to do with them. It's about stress, habits, lack of awareness, or personal limitations on the other person's side. Once you accept that, personal offense loses meaning. Another key part of this shift is letting go of emotional scorekeeping. You're no longer tracking who said what, who owes you respect, or who crossed a line last. You address issues when necessary, but you don't store them. Storing resentment is optional, and disciplined men choose not to. This mental shift doesn't make you passive. It makes you decisive. You either engage calmly, set a boundary, or disengage without drama. No internal arguments. No lingering frustration. Just clean action. The most powerful part? When people realize they can't emotionally shake you, their behavior changes or becomes irrelevant. Either outcome works in your favor. Calm isn't the absence of emotion. It's the presence of perspective. And perspective is what separates men who are constantly bothered from men who move through life unshaken. In the conclusion, we'll tie this together with one final, controversial truth, and I'll ask you to reflect on how often anger has actually served you. Here's the controversial truth that most men don't want to admit, but need to hear. The person who angers you controls you more than the person who respects you. Anger feels justified in the moment, but if you look closely, it rarely improves your position. It doesn't make you clearer. It doesn't make you stronger. And it definitely doesn't make you more respected in the long run. Most of the time, it just drains your energy and hands your peace to someone who didn't earn it. Real strength isn't never feeling irritation. It's recognizing it without obeying it. When you stop letting people decide your emotional state, life becomes quieter, cleaner, and more intentional. You don't lose your edge. You sharpen it. You become harder to provoke, harder to manipulate, and easier to trust by yourself and by others. If this video made you reflect on moments where anger cost you more than it gave you, I want you to comment below and share your experience. What used to bother you? What still does? And what are you working on letting go of? I read those comments and I reach out because growth doesn't happen in isolation. It happens through awareness, honesty, and conversation. You don't win by reacting. You win by staying in control.